Hello there and welcome to Brian Lomax's Movie Talk. I'm back to review Jeepers Creepers 2. I already reviewed the first one, so please check out that review if you haven't already. Victor Salva returned after kind of saying that he wouldn't to do Jeepers Creepers 2. One of the reasons he wrote the whole every 23 years thing into the first film was to make it very difficult for them to come back and make a sequel. That was until Francis Ford Coppola just said, why don't you do it literally the same night or the night after, you know? He decided to come back and make another one. This film has quite a different tone, I would say, to the first one. There's a lot more takes place in daylight, and it focuses around essentially one location for the most of it, which is this bus, this school bus. The creeper attacks this school bus, kind of flattens the tyres, and it's left stranded. And then across the course of this one night, it kind of picks off these teenagers. We get this guy, this man who comes and helps them out to try and bring this creeper down because the creeper took his son. And that's essentially it. Now we do get one other element in the film which is something of a tie-over from the last one, which is that this girl, one of the teenagers on this bus, she starts to have these dreams in which basically all this exposition is given to her so that she can then relay it to the other characters. Basically, you know, the rules of who the creeper is, what he's all about kind of thing. I said this in the first one. We had this psychic character in the first one. That felt a little bit more well gelled together, I think, than it does here. But it almost makes me think that this is a rule now. This is part of the creeper's MO, that if he's going to attack someone, then there has to be a psychic involved. So I don't know where that's coming from. If anything needs explaining in these films, it's that element. It's why do people get these visions, that help them out against the creeper? That element for me didn't really work. But despite that, the actress who plays that role, Nikki Acox, probably gives the best performance in the film. Her reactions to the things that are going on around her feel very natural to me. She doesn't kind of go over the top. And that's the main problem with most of the other cast. Some of the reactions here, let's just say nearly everyone in this film at some point gets the chance to be hysterical, like over the top hysterical. And I know that the situation they're in is very intense, very hyper, but I just feel like a lot of the actors in this film were newbies, and it shows. Ray Wise as the man who basically comes to hunt down the creeper, the one who's helping these kids out, he's probably the one who, after Acox, comes closest to subtlety in performance, but then he is more of a seasoned actor. Kind of wish we'd focused more on him and less on these kind of obnoxious teens that I don't really care about. There's also a lot of shots in this film of many of the male teenagers on this bus. I say teenagers, they're all played by 20-somethings. Without their shirts on, and it just seems really random. And even when they've got their shirts on, somehow Salva, the director, finds a way to get them off. Basically, all these scenes do feel a little bit pervy on part of the director. He is gay, that's common knowledge, and it kind of feels like he's putting that up all on screen for the world to see. But hey, if Michael Bay can do it in reverse, if he can put like Megan Fox and up the skirt shots, then yeah, I think it only gets into tricky waters when you realise the history of this director and some of the stuff in his past, which, as with the first film, I don't really want to get into. I'll acknowledge them here because I'm sure I'll get many comments about it, so I am aware of it. Please be aware of that. But on the flip side, I do also want to point out that at the end of the day, these guys are all 20-somethings. The guys that we're seeing on screen, they're all in their 20s. They may be playing teenagers, but they're all in their 20s. Michael Bay does the same thing with Megan Fox, and everyone just doesn't care because everyone loves Megan Fox. Well, they're attracted to her or whatever. Maybe not. I'm just saying there's probably a double standard there, because certain things in this guy's past we get a bit more critical, a bit more harsh, but that's as far as I want to get into that hotbed of a mess of a topic. Jonathan Breck is back as the Creeper here, and the budget for this film is quite a lot bigger, and I think it does show in the special effects department. The makeup feels a lot cleaner, a lot kind of muckier, if that makes sense. How can it be clean and mucky? But it's just, I think the muck on the Creeper, the kind of gloss on him, the shine, it looks a lot more detailed. We're able to get in close with the camera and stay on him for longer periods, because there's just a lot more work gone into the texture of his face and whatnot. So yeah, there's that. There's also a lot more CGI effects in this. Salva has stated that in the first film they only had 5, and in this they have well over 100 CGI effects. And I think that adds to the action scenes as well. There's a lot of great scenes in here in which we see the Creeper flying around in all his glory. Some of them don't work. There are some that do look like green screen, but on the whole, once again, I think they've done very well with the budget, and they've crafted not just a horror slasher kind of film, monster film, but a pretty decent action film as well. Yeah, that's it. I said decent. Now, when I first saw this film way back when, I think I gave it like 1 out of 5. I didn't like it at all. I think it had lost everything really from the first film. And I didn't get a sense that this was even the same writer-director from the first film. Now, this time around, coming into it, I had such low expectations because of how I felt about it the first time. But I just feel like a lot of the problems that I imagined in my head from the first viewing, they weren't here this time around. This is a different film. It does have a different flavour to it, and there's completely different characters. I think first time around I was a bit sour that we didn't get Gina Phillips coming back. I think I would have rather have seen how she dealt with the aftermath of that first film. I believe we're going to get that in the third one, but yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. But here, I've come back to it, and I'm kind of taking this film on its own terms. It's actually not half bad. I still don't think it's anywhere up near the first one, but it ain't the travesty that I kind of remembered it to be, or that indeed most people paint it out to be. There is entertaining action sequences in it, some really good moments of horror, some even, dare I say, some good moments of comedy. Although I can't tell if all of them are entirely intentional. Some of it comes out of the performances and the lines of dialogue. I don't think the dialogue is quite as crisp here as it was in the first one, because I don't think we have any relationships in this film that are as strong as that brother-sister relationship from the first one. But again, it's not as bad as I remember it. I for some reason remember the dialogue being so terrible that it took me out of the film the first time I watched it. And yet here, this time around, it really didn't bother me all that much. I do like this idea of a sustained threat and terror confined to this one location. I like how Salva makes use of this bus. It's a very confined space. How do you get a full movie out of that with a creeper hanging outside while they're all in there? And you might well ask, why doesn't the creeper go in there, finish them off like that? But if you think about the first film, he preys on their fear. He needs them to be afraid so that he can sniff out the thing inside them that he needs to take. So you get the sense from this film throughout that he's constantly toying with them, playing with them, trying to amp up that fear out of them so he can basically go in for the kill. Speaking of the kills, Salva has again kind of spoken out about how he's more influenced by horror films of old, the Universal monster kind of films, and not things like Nightmare on Elm Street and that. So he doesn't really go in for your big kind of slash fest kills. He's not a huge ton of gore here. I think the bloodiest scene is when someone gets their head chopped off, but even that is slightly played for laughs. Again, when the guy's shirt ends up coming off bizarrely, and he's kind of flapping around while his head's not on. So it's quite humorous, and the blood isn't exactly full on. So yeah, you won't find those kind of kills in this film. But again, you do find the tension. You know, I think Salva does a very good job of, like I say, trapping these people in a confined space and just kind of prolonging that ordeal that they are going through for us, so that we can feel that tension. I just wish, as I say, I'd have cared a little bit more about the characters that are on that bus. I care enough to keep me reasonably invested in the film, but not to the extent where I kind of want any of these people to survive. So all in all, I was pleasantly surprised on my second viewing of this film, and it has gone up in my estimation. I didn't think it would, but there you go. I give it 3 out of 5. Like I say, not quite as good as the first one, but it does make me look forward to what we're going to get in the third film. But what about you? Have you seen Jeepers Creepers 2? And despite the controversy, what do you think about the film? Comment below, let me know, and until next time, cracking.